Hi everyone, my name is Kate Marcelino. I am the marketing coordinator for Green Energy Consumers and here with Loie Hayes. We'll be starting the webinar in just about 3 minutes. We're going to give people a few seconds to log on, and there is a message in the chat. If you see it, you can introduce yourself and state the state you live in, the type of heating fuel you currently use in the questions panel. Okay, Loie, I think we can get started. I'll pass it on to you.
Great. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the webinar on heating system efficiency. I'm excited to be here. We had some great questions yesterday when we gave this webinar, and I'm sure we'll have more tonight. We'll try to leave time at the end for your questions, and we will send out a recording of this webinar. And if you need the slides themselves, just let us know. Alrighty, here we go. We're gonna do introductions and then start with the simplest things, look into your hot water system and projects that might be considered major renovations, and then look at heating upgrades. So Green Energy Consumers, we've been around for a long time. We're a nonprofit. We started out as a heating oil buyers group. We still do that. So if you heat with oil and want to be part of our buyers group, and I can get you that information. From our beginning, we've been pro-consumer and pro-environment. No conflict there in our minds. We've expanded from heating oil to green electricity, supporting wind turbine and solar installations throughout our region. We also now have a wonderful Drive Green program that helps people get great discounts on electric vehicles. We can also connect you with pre-vetted installers for solar panels through a wonderful partner organization called Energy Sage. And from time to time, we have heat pump promotion programs. So what are the big energy uses in our homes? Well, no surprise, the biggest part is your heating system. Air conditioning has historically only been a small slice of the pie, 1%, but we expect that will be going up as our climate continues to warm. Your fridges, appliances, that takes about a quarter of your energy load. And your water heating is a surprisingly large percentage, 16%. So don't ignore your water heater. It's an important part of the pie. So the average heat use in Massachusetts, according to the DOER, they estimate that the average oil heated home is 1,900 square feet, and that homes needs 700 gallons per year to stay comfortable. They estimate that the average gas heated home is 1,800 square feet, and that uses 656 therms per year to keep comfortable. Obviously, those are just an average number. Your home may be smaller or larger. It may be more or less efficient than these averages. To figure out how your home can compare with other homes, we are recommending the EPA's Home Energy Yardstick. If you Google it, you'll come up with it, and it's a nice tool for getting a better sense of how efficient your home is or how inefficient it is. And remember, the more insulation you have, the better air sealing you have, and the higher efficiency equipment that you have, the less energy you'll need to stay comfortable. So just to quickly go over some of the do-it-yourself things, changing your furnace filter, of course, adjusting the temperature on your water heater. You can often make it a little bit lower, especially if any of the water coming out of your faucets or showers is too hot to touch. You may be able to turn that down and save some money. Mastic is a great substance for if you have ductwork and it hasn't been closed up with insulation. You can paint this gray goo on all the seams and tighten up the ductwork. A lot of heat can be lost when you have leaky ductwork. Air sealing in the basement, feeling for air leaks around the doors and windows, around the rim joist where the bottom of the walls meets the top of the foundation. Oftentimes you'll have breezes coming in those areas, the rim joist, the doors, the windows. And if you feel air coming in, then you can easily close up those gaps with the appropriate materials. Hot water pipe insulation, this is definitely worth doing and very simple to do and very inexpensive to do. And finally, the annual tune-up of your heating system. We say annual. Gas heat doesn't need to be every year. It could be every 2 or 3 years. And for oil furnaces and oil boilers, those annual tune-ups are now, we put annual in italics because the oil that you're burning now is so much cleaner because laws have been enacted that have made the oil cleaner that really you only need to get that every 700 or 800 gallons. So you could potentially stretch that annual out to a year and a half without worrying too much. And one of the definite things that you should do if you haven't done one, or if you haven't done one, say in the last 3 years, is get your energy assessment. These are free through Mass Save, EnergyWise Rhode Island, or your municipal power company. This is the first step to becoming eligible for interest-free loans and other incentives. You can often get free light bulbs, fire strips, thermostats. The professional advice, the independent professional advice is really excellent. And you can do these virtually now through smart technology, smartphones, tablets, that type of thing. So you can do it without spending as much time. So that's definitely worth doing. And you can get a heating assessment alone as opposed to the whole home energy assessment if you're thinking about upgrading your heating system. You might want to get a heating assessment to find out exactly what incentives would apply and how efficient your system is running now. Now about the hot water system, if you have a standard storage tank, you want to try to flush that annually. If it's a relatively new tank and you haven't flushed it, it may be just fine to do that. If it's an older tank and you haven't flushed it yet, you may get some of the deposits that are in the bottom of the tank that you're trying to flush out. They may clog that flush valve. But when that happened to me, I just put a bucket under it and it closed within a day. So you just need to let it drip until it's closed again. Um, when you're considering a tank replacement, I recommend getting a tank with 2 anode rods. They usually come with 1, but getting 2 anode rods will give it a longer life. You'll get more bang for your buck that way. And if you're thinking about replacing your boiler and you don't already have an indirect heating system, the indirect system is more efficient. Some people don't like them because you hear the boiler coming on during the summer to heat your domestic hot water. But studies have shown that even though it's coming on in the summer to heat your hot water, you've gotten free hot water, essentially free hot water all winter long. So it more than makes up for the cost of having it come on during the summer months. This is a picture of an indirect hot water boiler where you can see the pipes that actually connect the storage tank and the oil burner or the gas burner itself. And this is, a cutaway view of the heat exchanger on the inside. So you're basically, as I said, getting free hot water when you have an indirect boiler. If you have an electric hot water system and electric hot water heater and you're needing to replace it, consider switching to a heat pump water heater. The heat pump is 3 times more efficient than a regular resistance electric heater. They are more expensive. They have some other particulars that you need to look at, but it's definitely a good choice for a lot of homes that have electric heat. You can also put one in if you currently have oil or gas heated hot water, but they do need to have an electrical circuit. So if you don't have an available electric circuit for it, that could make it a pretty costly conversion. So bigger steps when we're thinking about major remodeling, insulation, of course, and air sealing with that. Insulation is like the sweater and air sealing is like the windbreaker. Some people have had insulation in their attic, for decades, but they never did the air sealing, and they could actually be saving a lot of energy if they had a professional come in and do air sealing in their attic or in their basement. Um, that's basically like stopping the chimney effect in your house. There are great incentives. This is just one example. I believe in Massachusetts, the incentive for um, rental units may now be 100%, or it may be rental units in multifamily houses. I'm not sure exactly. But you want to, this is just an example from Massachusetts, and Rhode Island has very similar incentives. And you definitely want to take advantage of that because it's highly incentivized. Um, Again, heating system replacement, you want to make sure you tap into the energy efficiency programs, and the rest of the slides will be about heating system replacement. So I'll go into that more in a moment. And if you are putting on a new roof, this is a great opportunity for adding insulation. You can actually add insulation to the roof deck before you put the new roofing material on top. We did that in the triple decker that I live in, and the third floor condominium is definitely way cooler in summer because of adding insulation when we re-roofed. And ditto with residing. If you have to reside your building, this is a great opportunity to add more insulation. This is a very expensive proposition, but it will really greatly reduce your heat load and your cooling load if you add insulation when you're residing. And heat recovery ventilation, this is replacing, you may have a bath fan in your home. This is an exhaust only fan, and a heat recovery ventilation is a two-way fan. There's two pipes and they're wrapped around each other, and one is expelling that warm, stale air in the middle of winter, or that warm, humid air in the middle of winter. The other one is pulling in cool, clean air. And because the pipes are wrapped around each other, the heat that's going out is actually being shared, is being transmitted into the cool air that's being brought in. And that heat recovery ventilation is a great way to improve the indoor air quality in your home and to conserve energy when you have a building that's been tightened up so that it doesn't have much air leakage. Some common barriers to insulation: if you have a home with brick siding, with asphalt siding, or with asbestos siding, these are difficult to insulate. But there are programs, the Major Renovations program, which I'll show in the next slide, can help you with insulating these buildings. And if you have knob and tube wiring, as is pictured here, or if you have asbestos in your, there's a vermiculite blown-in insulation that was put in decades ago that is sometimes contaminated with asbestos. And then there's also asbestos cladding that was put on heating systems and on especially steam pipes. And there are programs that can help deal with these things as well, because those are prohibitive for insulating homes. In Massachusetts, the program is called the Barrier Mitigation Grants, and these help with the costs, the extra costs that come along with knob and tube wiring, vermiculite, or asbestos. And in both states, there are major renovation programs. And as I say, you'll get a copy of this this recording, so you'll be able to get these URLs and contact information. But if you're looking at gut rehabs, adding rooms, other big projects, you can go through the major renovation programs and get more individualized incentives through that that are based specifically on how much energy you're saving. So on to heating system replacement. The number one thing is to plan ahead. Don't wait until it breaks in the middle of winter, because then you'll be stuck having to take whatever happens to be available, and it probably won't be the most efficient thing. Use the state programs to get referrals to pre-vetted contractors. We suggest getting 3 competing quotes, and both states have websites where you can get a list of pre-vetted contractors. The URL here for Rhode Island, National Grid, RIUS.com, RI heat pump, is specifically their heat pump vendors, but all of those vendors are also HVAC vendors. So any type of heating system that you want, you can use that pre-vetted list. And there's a great planning guide that's coming out, that's from the Mass Clean Energy Center. Mass CEC is the Mass Clean Energy Center. They have a program called Go Clean, and they have a wonderful planning guide that is basically a checklist for all the fossil fuel uses in your home, and you can figure out when those things will need to be replaced, and the efficiency rating of the current systems and things like that. So it's a great little planning tool for getting a handle on um, uh, um, which steps you need to do when, and which would make more sense to do quicker because that piece of equipment will need to be replaced sooner. And it includes transportation as well as your house. So it's a really wonderful comprehensive guide. Now, if you're considering a gas conversion, if you currently have oil, um, definitely things that you want to include in your calculations, the cost of removing the tank and the oil. If you're planning a conversion, plan it at a time when you have been able to burn up as much oil as possible in that system, in that tank, so that there's less gunk in there to be removed. Make sure that the contractor is very clear about whether you are going to need new gas pipelines. Sometimes if you have gas already in the home for, say, a water heater or, say, your stove, that's a small gas pipeline that's not large enough for a heating system. So make sure that the contractor specifies whether or not you would need to pay for any pipeline upgrades, obviously outside of your home as well as inside your home. And we ask you to consider the environmental cost of the methane leaks from natural gas wellhead through all the compressor stations and pipelines to your home. The climate change impact of methane leaks. Natural gas is, 99% methane basically, and methane is a very powerful climate change forcer, which means that a large part of the whole greenhouse gases that are in the atmosphere are are coming from methane. So we consider natural gas to be no cleaner than petroleum because of the laws that have been enacted that make petroleum now, only 15 parts per million of sulfur. Um, Oil is a lot cleaner than it used to be, and natural gas has a lot of hidden environmental costs that are not included in the calculation of how much carbon is actually being burned in your home. So we ask you to consider that, and of course, there's you know you'll need to make your decision based on what factors are important to you, but it's one thing to consider. Now, this is a slide that uses data from the Mass Department of Energy Resources, DOER, and it compares the different types of heating fuel from heat pumps down through propane. And we have extrapolated the data that they gave and created an equalized cost for 1,000 square feet. The heat pump is actually the least cost for the operating cost. Now this is, just the fuel needed to keep to keep warm 1,000 square feet. But oops, sorry, didn't mean to go forward on that. And next expensive would be the natural gas, then the electric resistance baseboard, then the heating oil, and finally the propane. You'll also see this change from last year. You can see that natural gas and heating oil and propane, the prices are much more volatile. They go up and down, as opposed to the price of electricity, which runs pretty stable increase every year, but a pretty stable increase. This is based on DOER's assumption of the average square foot of a home using these various types of fuel, and an estimated cost per unit of fuel, and an average usage. So you could adjust these numbers based on what your actual usage is, or what your actual cost is, or what your actual size of your home is. But this is certainly telling in terms of the heat pumps being way more cost effective than the electric resistance heat. If people say, "Oh, electric heat, it's always so expensive," well, the heat pumps are 3 times more efficient than the electric baseboard. So and I'll move on to more information about heat pumps because we've had a lot of questions about heat pumps in the past. So what do we mean by heat pumps? This is an electric heating system. Often people will refer to an air source heat pump as pictured in this picture as a mini split because there's 2 parts. One is outside, the compressor, and the other is inside, that's the air handler. The air handler is often high on the wall, but it could be low on the wall. It could even be in the recessed into the ceiling. And you can also have central air handler. If you currently have a central air system or a furnace, this air handler could be attached to your ductwork in your basement or your attic, wherever your air handler is currently based. You can also have a ground source heat pump. So instead of drawing heat from the outside air, it would draw heat from the ground itself, from a series of pipes in the ground. Or potentially even in a body of water if you had a pond on your property. Now I know a lot of people have been told, "Oh, heat pumps aren't any good. It didn't keep my home warm." Now this is true and has been true in the past, but the efficiency of heat pumps is increasing every year. And there are heat pumps now that operate efficiently and economically down to minus 15 degrees Fahrenheit. That's minus 15 degrees Fahrenheit. So there are very efficient cold climate heat pumps. That's another term that's used, cold climate heat pumps or highly efficient heat pumps. If you're getting a quote, even if you're getting a quote to replace your air conditioning system alone, you want to ask for a cold climate heat pump to be your new system because that's going to be highly efficient. Um, Now these can be carbon free. It's the only carbon free heat source. Well, I'll qualify that a little bit and say there's some geothermal that could be. Well, even that is paired with heat pumps. So really, it's the only carbon-free technology for heating. Um, and if it's paired with renewable electricity, then it's carbon free. Of course, if you're getting it off of the grid, then it's only partially carbon free. There's still natural gas and petroleum being burned in the electric plants. But if it's paired with renewable energy, like if you were a green energy member, a green powered member, and you were getting 100% of your electricity through our program, through wind and solar in our program, then your heating would be carbon free if you were heating with a heat pump. It's also the most efficient cooling if you currently have central air conditioning, or if you have a number of window air conditioners, then the cost of keeping your home cool could be significantly less if you used a heat pump system instead of your current system. There have been studies also that show potential resale value increase when you have installed heat pumps. The data so far is just from areas that have mild climates, but as more research is done, we expect to see, even in northern climates, potential resale value when you have a heat pump installed, because it is so efficient and so clean, and improves the air quality indoors, um, and the operating costs are better. So Heat pumps are not cost effective in some homes, particularly homes that have a lot of small bedrooms. Um, and they're less cost effective in homes that currently heat with gas, because gas is um, uh, the cheapest fossil fuel heat source. But for homes that have an open common area, um, homes that need air conditioning, homes with older central air, all of those are good indicators that a heat pump might be a cost-effective solution for you. And certainly, if you have solar panels, then a heat pump might be cost-effective even for a home with gas heat as a replacement. You do need to consider that there has to be space outdoors for the condenser. And if you're in an urban environment, certainly geothermal would not be possible, because you have to be able to dig up the ground, and you get a backhoe into the area. It's ever difficult for an urban environment, and even for some urban lots are so small that there really isn't space for the condenser outside. Um, the other caveat for heat pumps is that it's difficult to find in Massachusetts a contractor who can install a hydronic heat delivery system with a heat pump. Excuse me one moment, I need to take a drink of water. Now, by hydronic heat system, we mean radiators or baseboard or radiant floor heating. All of those systems use hot water or steam to heat the rooms in your home. And at present, the only common type of heat pumps installed in Massachusetts are ones that heat the air, that don't heat water. But in Vermont, the state efficiency program there has certified quite a few vendors in Vermont have experience in installing air to water heat pumps. These are heat pumps that connect to a hot water tank, and then that hot water is circulated through your baseboard or through your radiators or through your radiant floor. So it is possible. The technology exists. It's being sold in the United States. It's being sold it's being installed in New England. I've seen it installers in Connecticut as well. So it most likely will be coming to Massachusetts and Rhode Island before long, and there may very well be vendors already available that I'm just not aware of. So I will be happy to take your questions in just a moment. If you like this webinar, we have 3 coming up soon: electric cars, green electricity in Rhode Island, and shaving the peak, how to work collectively to reduce the pollution and the cost associated with really hot days in New England. And you can always register for our events on our website. And you can also find recorded webinars on our YouTube channel. Just put in Green Energy Consumers Alliance and you'll find our site. And please consider donating if you have the available resources. We are a nonprofit. We're a great advocate. We have a wonderful Drive Green program. We have a wonderful green municipal aggregation program that's bringing green electricity to entire municipalities instead of one home at a time. And we're making great progress, and we would love to have your support. And now I'm happy to take your questions. You can put those right into the question box. And I'm also happy to follow up afterwards by phone or by email. And as I said, we will be sending out a recording of this webinar. Let's see what we have for questions. Can two anode rods be retrofitted into an existing hot water tank? I see that person has left, but yes, I believe it can be. I'm not sure how cost effective it is because of having to get a plumber into the home to do that work. So if you do have questions, please type them into the question box. I see, should I use my heat pumps more in the winter and keep the furnace turned low? Yes, if you have cold climate heat pumps, it's a great idea to use those in the winter as much as you can. It's a question of where to locate the thermostats for the furnace and the heat pumps so that the furnace can be say set at 55 or 60 or something and the heat pumps can be set at 65 or 70, whatever it is you want. So yeah, definitely using those will be more efficient. The 100% wind, the 100% green power program is wind, but that's primarily just having to do with, I believe, the um, ease of signing the contracts with the generators. Um, so no, I don't expect that we're going to add solar and hydro to our 100% program, but we can definitely follow up with you later if you'd like on that question. Is there one time of year that's better than another for a home energy assessment? Wouldn't it be easier to find heat leaks in winter? Um, Potentially. If you have you can ask the home energy assessment organization that you're calling um, if they use an infrared camera if they ever use an infrared camera when they come out to do the the home energy assessment. If they do, then yes, having a heat assessment in the winter would be more effective. Um, but really, they've perfected being able to do it in either season. Can you comment on converting an oil burner to gas? Is it efficient, cost effective? Um, you can definitely do it. Many people have done it. Um, I'm not sure about the efficiency of it. Um, that would probably be a good question to ask during a heating assessment with the Mass Save or Energy Wise Rhode Island or with your municipal power plant um, about how efficient the system would be if it was burning a different fuel. Does the efficiency actually increase, or have you just changed what you're burning in it and the efficiency hasn't changed? So do heat pumps need annual tune-ups? No, they don't. Occasionally you will, clean the heating system, and certainly if there's a drop in, the amount of heat that it's able to produce, then it needs to have a check, but it doesn't need an annual tune-up, and shouldn't need too much fussing with it. Yeah, so here's a question. Somebody who doesn't need air conditioning, but wondering about adding a heat pump to a house that has steam heat, and a hot water system and an indirect hot water tank. Um, that's a good question, and to some degree, it would depend on where you would be placing the heat pump. Um, Say if your system has to work really hard to get heat to a master bedroom because of some design flaw, um, you could potentially put that heat pump in the master bedroom, and solve that problem and be able to keep the rest of the system at a lower temperature because it doesn't need to work quite so hard to heat the master bedroom. Ditto if you had a large open common area, say if the living room, dining room, kitchen were all open, or den was all open, you could put a heat pump there and be able to use that as the primary heat source during the day when you need to have it warmer when everybody is around. And then at night when everybody's in their bedroom, just use your steam hot water system at a lower temperature, um, uh, uh, to to get you through the night. So it is possible, and you can get a smart control that allows you to toggle back and forth seamlessly between the heat pump system and the legacy heating system. Somebody's writing, we got a highly efficient gas system. Is it worth considering replacing that with a heat pump? I would say no, but when that gas system is ready to be replaced, then you would definitely want to consider that possibility at that point. There's a question about the appearance of the mini splits, and are there other options um, other than those heads that are on the wall, that some people don't like the look of. And yes, there are units that can be recessed into the ceilings, not so much in the walls, but you can also get the units that are on the wall, similar to a radiator, a box that sits close to the wall, that's more aesthetically conventional than those ones that are hung from the ceiling up high. What's the cost of a groundwater heat pump versus an air source heat pump? You're probably talking an order of magnitude of three, something like that. Um, of course, it all depends. The cost all depends on how big of a space you're heating. How much heat you need to generate. But say if a heat pump system was $10,000, the equivalent geothermal, groundwater heat pump system might be 30,000. Now, if you happen to know somebody with a backhoe, or you happen to own a backhoe company, then you might be able to shave that cost considerably. But there's a lot of cost involved in digging up the ground and setting uh, those pipes in the ground. Um, Another question about, is it worth to convert a high efficiency burner before the end of its life on a current system? No, we don't. We don't consider that cost effective particularly. Better to wait until the current system is near the end of its life. Um, you want to get at least 2/3 or 3/4 of the expected life expectancy of any appliance before replacing it, unless you want to place a really high value on going net zero sooner, and then of course you could make that choice, and, and, and go for it to be one of the early adopters. Just trying to see if there's any more questions here. Well, I think we've just about covered it then. Um, Please be sure to contact me if you have any other questions, and I'm always happy to chat. Um, Kate, if you don't see anything more, we can go ahead and close the recording.